Well, good morning, everyone. As usual in the NFL fantasy matchup, and pretty much during this time, all your drafts should either be you're in the midst of your draft or pretty much be done with your draft. As usual, I have Jimmy over in Arizona and Jed over in the suburb of Illinois. Welcome, everyone.
Hey guys, good morning.
Morning. Happy Friday.
All right, let me throw this out to you as well, too. How many of you guys ended up drafting a Jonathan Taylor on your team or were tempted to draft Jonathan Taylor on your team?
I've got him. Actually, in my draft last night, I took him I took him pretty early. I think I took him in the fourth round. It was a 12 team league, so it was pretty tight. But I took him, I thought that was pretty early, but I have him on at least one team.
I'm surprised you were willing to risk it, Jed.
Yeah, I mean,
he's going to sit out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I think you're going to miss the 4 games, but it's like you're getting. I mean, if that pans out, you're getting basically a first round pick. So, to me, it was worth a try. And especially this year, boy, I think if anything, and we talked about this before, but it is so weak on the running back position. My goodness, if you don't get a running back in the first 2 rounds, you are just looking at really subpar options. And so it just felt like I got 2 wide receivers and a running back. So I had Pollard on that team. So I'm probably going to be fine either way, but it did take up a 4th round pick.
Jed, it's funny you say that because you remember how a couple of weeks ago in a couple of episodes I was talking about how I'm going to do this no running back strategy and load it up on wide receivers. all my drafts right now, all running back heavy, because I was like, by the time you look at it, right, there's not that many running backs, and the top echelon to like the rest of the league, there's such a big divide. I was like, I'm going to load up on the good running backs. And I'll just try to look for some good receivers later on because there's a ton of them. And then if I need to trade them later on, I'll just trade them.
Yeah.
The only problem with a running back is you never know when they might get injured. Yeah. And that's what you're always dealing with as well too. So.
Yeah, no, that's why I said this is the year not to focus on. That's why I was so surprised, everyone having Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase as 1 and 2, which I understand point wise. And I still think you can make a good case, especially for Justin Jefferson, that he should be number 1. But for me, that's why I didn't want the first 2 picks, because I didn't even want to worry about or if I had the first 2 picks, I wouldn't have taken Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. I would have taken either Austin Eckler or Christian McCaffrey. And so it's because to me this year, running back has to be super valued because there aren't any solid options.
Yeah.
Hey, for both of you guys, has there been a player that you've avoided in the drafts or that you've been surprised at? Wow, that player is still there. I'm very surprised.
The one that I thought kind of fell to me was Keenan Allen. I think maybe because of injury concerns, but we've talked about how we are all up on the Chargers. And so I was a little surprised I got him in the 2 leagues. So that's the guy that kind of sticks out to me.
Yeah. I think for me, like Christian Watson, who I kind of like, he's actually been there for pretty long. So I've been kind of surprised at that. And then also for me, Lamar Jackson. I think people are always a little iffy on Lamar. I think they're going to take the Herberts of the world, the Fields, even Joe Burrow before Lamar Jackson. So like a lot of times I'll be like, oh, he's still out there actually.
Yeah. One person that I've been surprised a lot of times, George Pickens. Even though he is your starting wide receiver and he's done really well in preseason, you'll still wait later on the draft to say, oh, George Pickens still sitting out there. And then Cortland Sutton, look, I mean, I'm not saying that he's the best, but with Jerry Jeudy injured, he is your number 1 wide receiver. Russell Wilson is not, maybe he's going to be bad, but let's see what happens under a Sean Payton offense to see if he's going to be that bad.
I've actually picked up Cortland Sutton in a number of years where he didn't get drafted. And I actually thought the same thing. I'm like, look, Judy's not going to be around for a few weeks. The only other receiver that they have is Mims. So I might as well take a risk on them. So I've just picked him up on some waiver wires.
Yeah, Terry McLaughlin is the same on Washington. Like people just are so worried about that team. You see him drop as well. I mean, he's a number 1. He's got the talent. Yeah. So, yeah.
Hey, Jahan Dotson. Some people really like Jahan Dotson for the Commanders because they said that he could potentially be a number 1 depending on what happens to McLaren as well too.
Well, but again, it's who's throwing the ball to him. So that's my biggest worry.
Sam Howells.
Yeah.
Some people said Sam Howells like amazing, but he is out there in the waiver wire waiting to be picked up.
Yeah. And another person who has been always stable, Adam Thielen. No one has really picked him up. You could pretty much get him on cheap. Now, at the same time, I don't know who's going to be throwing to him or how he's going to do in Carolina, but Adam Thielen, you might want to try.
Tom, you're the only one picking up Adam Thielen.
No.
Adam Thielen.
No one's picking up Adam.
No, I got Adam Thielen, my second to last pick yesterday, because DJ Chark is out, and so Thielen's the only guy. So it's the same argument, basically. If it's like the only guy who can catch, even if they have a terrible quarterback, they're still going to get something.
They got Mingle.
Look, he's been a decent wide receiver. And for someone that you could probably pick in the last couple rounds, especially in your 12-team league, I would go for Adam Thielen.
Jed, you'll appreciate that. The other day, Tommy and I were in an auction league. I forgot which day it was. And anyways, he needed a quarterback. And I saw Trevor Lawrence is out there.
Woo-hoo.
You know how much he loves Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So I made sure I purposely picked him up because I was like, I need that for trade bait. Because later on, he picked up Aaron Rodgers. But I was like, I know he's going to make me a trade for Trevor Lawrence later.
Yeah, I got Trevor Lawrence on my team yesterday. I was really happy with that. I was surprised he kind of fell pretty late. So actually, it was interesting in my league. Patrick Mahomes and this is my work league. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen went in the first round. So I was like, whoa.
No, but for because I would imagine with people you work with, they're not like really heavy into fantasy, right? So a lot of these guys would go for the big names, and usually it's the quarterbacks.
Well, it's interesting because remember, I'm in analytics, so there are a lot of like stat geeks, and so they kind of know their numbers. But yeah, some of their fandom definitely came out there. We have one guy who joined this year, so 12-team league. We have one guy I'm really interested to see how he does because he's a PhD in stat, like really smart guy, but he doesn't follow football at all. And so he said, I'm going to join you guys. And actually, upon joining, he said he downloaded all of the stats from 2022 and he wrote his own algorithms for drafting. And so I'm really curious to see how he does. He had a pretty good team. I mean, it was wide receiver heavy.
Who did he pick first?
So his
that's actually interesting. That just
I think he went wide receiver first.
Okay.
So I can pull up his. Go ahead. You guys can go. I'll pull up his.
Garrett Wilson. He picked Garrett Wilson first.
No, he didn't. You know what? His number one pick was
Garrett Wilson. Might have been really high on. Like he's the person who's I would say for me, he's the first wide receiver off the board. If he's there, and I'm trying to get him, he's the person I'm going after.
This was a snake draft, so little different thing. But he had the number 9 pick, and he took Cooper Kupp. So he got Cooper Kupp at 9, and then he paired him with Stephon Diggs on the turn. Yeah. And so he's, so that's pretty good. And he's got Joe Burrow as a quarterback, but then his running backs are Ramondre Stevenson and Javonte Williams. So, that's pretty weak.
I'll say this, right? Like that sounds pretty good based off of stats. But if you don't have I'm sure he did not know Cooper Kupp re-injured himself. I'm sure he doesn't know. Like Javonte Williams is going to be up in the air and trends are most likely he'll be slow to, if you don't have all of that knowledge, the stats can only tell you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Your draft, how have you guys been doing on your draft? And the reason I say this, Jimmy and I have been part of this league for over 15 years. Jet, it was an auction draft. And by the by the 5th or 6th round, everyone was down to $30, and I'm sitting there at $150. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a dream scenario! I get to pick whoever I want." And I stacked the team.
So who'd you get?
As you look, I will try to figure out. Let me just keep talking.
So Jed, this is what happened. Everybody was down to like $30, $40. Really, they spent. I mean, they were spending some ridiculous amounts on some of these players because I think they wanted some of the high-profile players. Yeah. So Tommy and I think he had like $150. I had like $120, and we were both going after Travis Etienne, and then I got Etienne. Then we were going after Dameon Pierce. So I got Dameon Pierce. And part of it is because I wanted to maximize take up all of the running backs. And then eventually I ran out of money and he was the only one left without the money.
Yeah, Jed, here, my starting quarterback is Lamar Jackson because he was sitting there.
Right.
I think I got him for like $7, right? Then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan
good.
Allen,
That's
Mark
good.
Andrews, Aaron
That's
Jones,
good.
Calvin Ridley, Alexander Madison, George Pickens, Javonte Williams, Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, and I traded Darren Waller later on for Damian Pierce.
Wow, that's solid.
Yeah.
No, that's a really
The
good
only
team.
the only thing with my brother, I was telling him, is he doesn't have that like one high profiled individual. Like one or two like top tier, like a Travis Kelce or Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be fine because he's got depth. But there's some people who really said like I want to spend.
Oh, looks like Jimmy froze. Oh,
There he is.
Yeah.
The person who I regret that I did not get in the league so far, and he comes at a key time. It's roughly right around that third round. Is Calvin Ridley.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really, and it's a key moment. And I think if you had, so I got in one league, I got Mark Andrews. It was between Mark Andrews and Calvin Ridley. And as I looked back on it, I was like, I probably should have took Calvin Ridley and just gotten maybe a Darren Waller later because Andrews was the second tight end off the board. But I also think Andrews is I think Baltimore, you're going to see with the new coaches, they're going to be passing a lot more. They're not going to be so run heavy. And so I think Andrews is really going to benefit from that. But man, I like Calvin Ridley a lot. Like, I think Ridley's going to have a great year.
Yeah, in general, I think Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, that entire Jacksonville team is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know about Ingram. We'll see. I've seen him drafted in every league. I've seen him drafted, but I don't know. I still remember his New York days.
So I don't know how my strategy is. So my strategy has been if Travis Kelce is up there, I'm going to go hard after Travis Kelce. I'm going to pick up 3.
He went number 5 last night, by the way, in my league.
Yeah, and I'll pick up a couple running backs. So I've been targeting Jahmyr Gibbs. I've been targeting Travis Etienne. I've been targeting like Damian Pierce, Austin Eckler, going after that. And then I go after like the second tier. Oh, and then I usually get one of the top quarterbacks, Allen, Hurts, Fields, or Herbert. And then after that, I go after whatever leftover receivers there are. So, I mean, the only thing is like I'm left with like my number 1 receivers are okay, but my number 2 receivers are not that good.
And a lot of times and all of us have different strategies. I want depth. Some people love the superstars. I could care less. I want trade chips at the end of the year because out of that, maybe you'll get one person who just has a phenomenal year. Like back in the day, Cooper Kupp, we thought he was just a 3rd, 4th round receiver, suddenly ascended all the way to the top spot. So you never know which of your other, like George Pickens, you could probably get him in the 6th, 7th round. I think he has the potential to be a superstar. He may win your league there.
You like how in our dynasty league, I spent all that money for Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, it is a dynasty league. So I think that's, that was kind of my thinking too. I spent my money on Justin Herbert. And I was just like, I'm just going to keep, because you guys know I had Kyler Murray and not in, I dropped him. So that was the other reason I spent it. Cause I was like, this way I don't have to draft quarterbacks anymore.
Yeah. Well, I look and just say, if we kept 4, I want to make sure that my 4 is always at top. So I'm willing to spend extra to make sure that I keep that person.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt, a lot of times he has 4 offers from different teams as well too. Look, I mean, even if you start, let's say Indianapolis, right? Even if he starts on 10 days rest or 7 days rest, he would still be pretty good. Have any of you guys looked at a Kareem Hunt?
I've actually
less rounds.
I picked him up in actually waiver wire in one league, just to kind of see how it goes. Because I actually agree with you. I think they're going to need a Kareem Hunt, right? Whether it's in Indianapolis, whether it's in like any of these other leagues. I think he's somebody I've been really kind of looking at as well too.
I actually, for Indianapolis, I like the other backup. Well, they're waiting on Moss.
Deion Jackson.
Yeah, I like Deion Jackson. I mean, they're waiting on Moss because of his arm, but I still think even if he comes back, like he's gonna, I don't know. I think they're gonna take it easy with him. So I think Deion Jackson, at least for the first 2-3 games, you should be able to get something out of him. I think Kareem Hunt is gonna end up waiting until like 4th or 5th week right before the 6-week mark, and then you'll see him pick up. Because remember that he was on the downturn. He didn't have a good year last year, and so I don't. Even though he had 4 offers, and I heard he rejected them because of money, I think he's going to end up waiting a little bit. I don't think he's going to sign right before the season.
Yeah. You know who I've been targeting on waiver wires right now or trades? Zach Charbonnet. I think he's going to replace Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
as a
Well,
number
Kenneth
2.
Walker will probably get hurt, and then he'll be able to.
So that's why I've been going after Charbonnet.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk a little bit about tight ends as well too. I mean, Travis Kelce, all of us, if he's there, you're picking up probably in the first round. But after that, who do you guys like? Is it TJ Hawkinson or do you like a George Kittles?
No, I don't think either of them, right? I mean, but here's the thing: TJ Hawkinson did sign a new contract yesterday, making him, I think, the highest paid tight end in the NFL. But I would say Mark Andrews is going to be clearly your number 2 tight end right after Travis Kelce.
The only thing is George Kittles under Brock Purdy did very, very well under Brock Purdy.
No, but he didn't get much touchdowns, right? So that's what I've been kind of looking at. If you're going to compare them in terms of both yardage and touchdowns and also the number of receptions, I think they're going to be pretty even in terms of receptions. But Kittle usually, once at least in the San Francisco system, Kittle usually doesn't get the touchdowns, or at least in the last couple of seasons. So that's why I put Mark Andrews before Kittle.
Yeah, Mark Andrews is definitely over Kittle. I would even put Darren Waller and Hawkinson above Kittle, but I have him right after that, so he'd be in the 5th. But this year was interesting for tight end in that I listed the top 6 tight ends. So Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, Waller, Kittle, and then I've got Pitts right after Kittle. And I basically said I have to get one of those 6. I'm not willing to have anyone else outside of those 6, and so because it just feels like you really drop off after that. So
and you would probably say, look, if you somehow miss out on one of the 6 or something like that, you say, man, this player is there, I need to get this player. I would then probably just wait. I mean, just wait until last couple of rounds, and you could probably get a Sam Laporta. Might be a decent pickup for you because you don't know how well he's
doing. Or a Dalton Kincaid from Buffalo or something like that.
Hey, you know who I like is Cole Kmet in Chicago. I think Kmet could be, he could turn out to do well if Fields continues to progress.
But I'll tell you, here's a strategy, right? Here's something to consider, at least getting a Travis Kelce. When you get a Kelce, you are always assured that you're going to get 15 to 20 points. That's and if you don't have Kelce or one of those like Mark Andrews, you might get like 2 points, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I've been going hard after a Kelce, is because I'm like, at least I always know that tight end position where I usually don't score anything, I'm getting a good 15 to 20 points from that position.
Yeah. Hey, look, some of the other ones that are sitting there after the top 6, you have Dallas Goedert. Doesn't sound too exciting. Pat Freiermuth, David Njoku, Higbee, Kincaid, Kmet. I mean, they're not the best. I mean, I think just wait if you don't get one of those top 6.
Yeah, Njoku is one. You guys know I've got Njoku in our league. He's one I do like, again, because I think Cleveland is gonna. I mean, they have to get better. Like they can't be as bad as they were last year.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah. Hey, some of the guys just to monitor is Greg Dulcich. He's a tight end for Denver. Luke Musgrave might be a decent one, but these guys, again, Jake Ferguson over Dallas, tight end. These are more of your later round picks, just in case you need it.
I haven't picked him up, but I've been intrigued by Greg Dulcich from Denver, because the other day Sean Payton was doing an interview, and he says that he can see Dulcich being used similar to how they used Jimmy Graham in the Saints. And last year he did pretty good. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, for me, it's either you go after the top ones, or you don't go after any of them at all, and you just hope that you get some of the latter ones towards the end. So.
Yeah. Hey, IDP, a lot of times for some of you guys, many people play team defenses and all that stuff. Which, by the way, actually, let's talk about that. If you did have a team defense, what's your strategy? Do you wait to the very end, or do you say you have to go after this particular coordinate or this after defense for your team defense?
No, you have to make fun of the people who draft the first defense. That is the key rule, as well as the first kicker. Those are the 2 rules. You got to make fun of them. I think team defenses, no, you definitely should wait, but I don't think you have to wait till the last 2 picks of your draft. I think you don't want to be the first, but again, kind of like I was saying with tight end, I've got 6 that I said, okay, I've got to get one of those 6. Same thing with defenses. I think you want to list roughly 6 to 8 and say, okay, I want one of those. You don't want to have to wait till after the top 10. So you want to pick roughly in that 4, 5, 6, and it could be the usual suspects, right? Baltimore is always good. Patriots are always good. Buffalo's good defense. I mean, you don't have to get San Francisco, I think, has been going number 1 a lot. You don't have to get like Dallas. You don't have to get like the top guys.
Yeah. So I think the top 3, at least in terms of defenses, are San Francisco, Dallas, and then Philadelphia. And they're usually averaging for the year roughly between 130 to 120 points, right? And then you've got your next chunk, the Saints, New England, some of those. That's pretty similar. I think they'll get you total points roughly like in the 118, right? And so I try to stay around there because once you get past that group, then you're like at 100 points, So I was like, I don't want my defense not having anything. And so actually, if you wait quite a bit, you'll still see Dallas and Philadelphia or even like a Pittsburgh sitting out there. And so I'll try to draft one of those 3 if I'm going after team defenses.
By the way,
go ahead, Jed.
No, go ahead.
I would probably recommend what has worked for me a lot of times. Just go with Miami defense. Let all the San Francisco's, all that stuff, because you look at coordinators. Vic Fangio was the Bears coordinator. A lot of times he has high pressure defense. He's the new defensive coordinator over Miami. He's going to have a good defense. Nobody knows that besides some of the people, unless you really follow coordinators. So pick a Miami defense because you're going to be able to get that 3rd from last, 4th from last, or something like that.
Yeah, or you can always, if you don't end up getting a defense, you can always just play the streaming game and just pick up the defense that's playing Houston every week, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Exactly. In terms of what you said, just play matchups every single week.
No,
because
but then
the Bears defense might be really good this year. The Los Angeles defense with Arredondo back to health might be very, very good this year.
Well, but the only problem with that strategy, because I played that strategy, one of the leagues I ran out of the number of waiver wire pickups I can get. So this year I was very determined I am not going to run out.
I don't like having a cap on that. Oh, what I was going to say earlier, Tommy, though, is I think in our league, so in our league, we have individual defensive players, which is different. I personally am not a huge fan, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's just like, you just got to do a little bit of homework. But I do think what is bad about our league, and I should have brought this up before we drafted so we could have talked about the settings, is the point values are too high. Like the point values for our 3 defensive players are so big that like they really make up a pretty dominant portion of your weekly total. So I think we should like knock down, like it shouldn't be equivalent to essentially 3 offensive players. It should be like maybe half of that.
My guess is that was whatever Yahoo put the settings.
Yeah, it's probably
no one's looking at defensive numbers, but
because I think most leagues only do 1, but we've got 3 starting.
Well, I'll tell you this, Jed. That's one of the reasons why in our league I actually picked up a Roquan Smith. Because I didn't think about changing it, but I remember I was like, defensive players actually add quite a bit of value into the weekly lineup points. And so that's why I went after the top 2, right? Like I picked up Zaire Franklin from the Colts, and then I also went after, what's his name? Roquan Smith. From Ravens.
Oh, I spent money on all 3 of mine. In our draft, I bought all 3 of them. I wasn't waiting for the waivers. And if for anyone who doesn't know, when you play IDPs, basically the linebackers dominate because you get points for tackles. And so linebackers, it's very consistent how many tackles you can expect out of them on a weekly basis. Whereas cornerbacks, you're counting on interceptions. It's a little, depending on the cornerback, there are some there's like maybe like 5 cornerbacks that it might make sense. And then defensive ends, you're dependent on sacks. And so it's too much.
I mean, like a Aiden Hutchinson, right, from Detroit, you would think that he's amazing, right? And so he is, because he pressures the quarterback, but he's not giving you any fantasy points.
Yeah, I kind of don't like that, because now you have these superstars that aren't, as valuable in fantasy because their presence somehow, it just doesn't show up in the stats.
Because our league, especially with IDP, rewards middle linebackers, which is not always emphasized. So the Roquan Smith, Levante David, Bobby Wagner, all those guys are very, very highly held because of their number 1. Even a lot of times, Shaq Leonard, now he's been injury prone with the neck injury for a while, but he was very, very good.
I picked up Shaq Leonard in a couple of leagues just to kind of see how he goes.
I've got TJ Edwards on Chicago. I mean, I think if you get lost, one thing to do is just to basically go by team defenses. So you know which teams have the best defenses, and then just try to find their top 1 or 2 players and pick off of that if you don't know it. Because it's hard to remember. Like I don't remember all the names, but you can at least pick out like, okay, San Francisco's gonna have a good defense, Baltimore.
Yeah.
So
No, talking about a player that I wish I picked up that I let him go for like pretty cheap, Nick Bolton. He's the linebacker out of Kansas City. He's projected to do really well this year, and I just especially with Chris Jones not going to be there, or maybe not. He hasn't signed yet, but he's been the person that I regret not picking up.
Yeah, the key thing is a lot of times is go sort onto your players, sort according to tackles, solo tackles. And even if anything, just see how many tackles, if they have high tackles, take a risk on those guys because that means they're constantly in every play tackling all the time.
The one defensive, if you have IDPs, the one IDP player that's out there that's still pretty good is Greenway from San Francisco, but he's been injured. And last year he had a phenomenal year, but the year before that he was injured. So I think that's one of the reasons why people have been hesitant to pick him up.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, our draft is, it's almost done. I have one more draft tonight with my wife's family, but other than that, that should be a pretty easy one. Any other thoughts on the drafts? Anything that you guys have noticed? Anything that stood out?
Tommy likes that draft because he knows he can get all the good players because none of them know what they're doing.
So I've got one more draft on Sunday. It's an auction. I'll just say again, as we talked about the difference between auction and snake, I still think auction is superior, but I get with snake, like what, there is a little bit of fun. Like we had a lot of fun, kind of making fun of picks and putting pressure on people, and you kind of predict, like as you're coming up, as someone's pick is coming up and like, oh, they want a quarterback. And so then you're shouting out the names, of who they might draft. And it's pissing them off because they're like, they don't want someone to steal that person. And that part is kind of fun. So I get it. But again, I think ultimately to me, if you're serious, I think
auction. Yeah. But auctions are long. I think we had a draft the other day. Auction was almost 3 hours for us to draft. Yeah. And it was good, but it was a long draft.
Yeah. Did you guys do any in person this year?
No. Everything online.
I missed that. I missed the my longest running league is 23 years now, and I missed that we haven't drafted together. We did it last year, but this year we didn't do it. But it's so fun when you get to talk.
No, Jed, I remember that back in the day. I remember we would buy our magazines and we would all go to someone's house and we would sit there. But it's harder now, especially with everyone in different time zones too.
Buffalo Wild Wings, that used to be the place. You get all a bunch of free stuff. They used to give you $100 in free credit, free food if you came and drafted there. Yeah.
Really?
So we did that for probably 3-4 years. $100 credit, and you didn't have to do anything. But we'd spend a couple $100, whatever. But it was
but that's pretty good. That's great. Yeah.
Hey, in terms of even as we finish up here, some of these players at the later rounds, do you like any of these players? Like for instance, Robert Woods, Houston wide receiver. If you're in a 12-team league and sitting there, do you guys like a Robert Woods?
Not really. Like, here's my thing. Towards the later rounds, I don't gamble for the Robert Woods of the world. I'm going to go after the rookies, right? So in the later rounds or waiver wires, I'm going to go after the Quentin Johnson for the Chargers. I'm going to go after the Zach Charbonnet, the Roshan Johnson
for the Bears.
Yeah. So, because I'm much rather, because we at least know what the Robert Woods are going to do, but we don't know what some of these other rookies are going to do. So I'm going to take the risk on them. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'm just looking in our league, in our 12-team league. I mean, if you look on the waiver wire, there are still some pretty decent names. Like at running back, Jerick McKinnon, Tyler Algier in Atlanta. That's not a bad. Damian Harris in Buffalo.
Traylon Burks. Do you guys like Traylon Burks? He's coming back. He said they said he's going to play week 1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a wide receiver. Yeah. So wide receiver Traylon Burks, but Marvin Mims, we talked about him already.
I like Mims. Yeah.
Odell Beckham's sitting out there, and again, he's in Baltimore. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. And then Adam Thielen is in our league. He's sitting on the waivers. So there's there are some options, especially at wide receiver.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is with our league, with a dynasty league, if you're going to pick up a person, right? I'm not going after Odell. I'm not going after the Adam Thielens of the world. Try to go after somebody who you can pick up and may potentially be like a long-term dynasty winner for you.
Yeah. Well, Darnell Mooney is available. I like him.
Yeah. And also take a look at and watch carefully Devon Akane. He's the running back over Miami Dolphins. Like they didn't sign Dalvin Cook, and Raheem Mostert is your starting running back. And we always know Raheem Mostert will eventually get hurt.
Yeah.
And so take a look at Devon Akane. Now they say he's probably tiny. He's as big as Warwick Dunn was back in the day. But take a look at him.
Yeah, I've actually been watching him. He's been on somebody to watch. So, hey, what do you guys think about Brian Robinson? He's always available towards the end, and I never know whether to pick him up or just he's going to split with Antonio Gibson.
I have high hopes for Antonio Gibson. They've been raving about him now. At the same time, it's a brand new Eric Bieniemy, and let's see what he does with Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, that to me again, it's just I don't know about the whole team as a whole. I think that's my biggest concern. Although you guys heard they're going to have a new name, right? That's kind of exciting.
Ooh, oh yeah. I mean, okay. So, but who would you guys pick? Brian Robinson over Antonio Gibson, or Gibson over?
No,
Robinson?
I would take.
I pick Gibson over
Gibson.
Robinson.
Yeah.
Because
I think
Robinson is he can't what you call it? He can't catch the ball and run. So eventually, there's only so much ceiling. That's why they got rid of David Montgomery. There's only so much ceiling in it.
Jed, this is the problem with this podcast is because Tommy and I are in quite a few drafts together. He knows which players I'm targeting, and every time towards the end, I know he's picking up that George Pickens. I get so frustrated because I'm trying to pick up a George Pickens.
Pickens is a good pick. I like Pickens. I like Pittsburgh on the upswing as a team. One thing we didn't do this year before the start, maybe we can do it next week before the first game on Thursdays. We need to pick our Final Four and then our Super Bowl winners. Because I really think that when you start to merge kind of your knowledge of who are the strong teams, who are the winning teams, basically there's more points to go around because they're scoring more points. And so there's more points for more touchdowns, for all of your offensive players. So I really think that's an important part of kind of matching up, who you're going to play and who you're going to pick.
That's good. Yeah. The other thing I've been monitoring on the waiver wires, every year there's always going to be 2 or 3 running backs, right? Last year was Kenneth Walker, who's stuck on the waiver wire at the very beginning, but towards the end of the season, they're going to be fantasy difference makers for you, right?
And
so I've been
yeah.
So I've been really looking through the waiver wires, trying to find that one person. Zach Charbonnet is that one person for me. The Miami running back might be another one, but that's who I've been looking at.
Or even Roshan Johnson. I think a lot of times crowded backfield with the Bears, but suddenly he was picked in the second round second round. He may emerge as a top running back out of UT.
Well, so here's the reason why, because Herbert is good, but he hasn't done a full season. I can see him getting injured. They almost cut Foreman, right? If you listen to all of the Chicago radio stations, Foreman was on the bubble. And so for me, I'm like, if they think that highly of Roshan Johnson, he actually might be the person you want to. Actually, that's a good like a dynasty league. I'm gonna go see if Roshan Johnson is actually sitting out there.
Yeah, but see, for me, those kind of picks, it's kind of more you're aiming after the first 4 weeks. Like that's why I always tell people too is I don't like to make big moves after week 1 and week 2 because you did a lot of effort to figure out your draft and you need to give it a little bit of time to see how things shake out, and then you can start to make those moves. But if you are looking, one of the things I like to do is I like to list the top 5 running backs and then look at who their backups are, right? So Christian McCaffrey's backup, Austin Eckler's backup, Bijan Robinson's backup. Those are all not bad picks to just stash and just hold on your bench and see if anybody gets hurt in the first 6 weeks, and then you can flip that into a starter.
Jed, Tajay Spears, backup to Derrick Henry. Yeah, I picked him up in 1 because I was like, you never know. Henry's getting older. You never know when these guys are just going to.
He's a beast, man. Henry's so tough. Like to me, it's the ones you want that are a little bit fragile, like Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey. They have a history, so you feel like they may go out. Bijan Robinson's interesting. He was a stud in college and was a workhorse, but you wonder if that's going to translate, to the NFL because was it Algier as the backup? That's not a bad pick.
I don't know. I like Bijan Robinson.
Patterson's in there too.
Yep. Oh.
Yeah, I think they're going to run the heck out of Bijan Robinson. I think he's going to be a touchdown scoring machine.
Yeah. And another one to watch out for that is largely ignored these days because I see that no one drafts him. AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon has always talked about is the backup similar to Alexander Madison and Dalvin Cook. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, they're both in their last year of their contract. There might be a chance they might go with the younger one, AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next week starts the beginning of Thursday Night Football. So, any lasting thoughts as we wrap up?
Hey, who plays Thursday again? Do you guys remember?
Kansas City against Detroit.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, that'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice to start, but that means all of our Thursdays and Sundays are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks all.
Thanks.